The story begins by showing a restaurant not far from a college campus. A young woman named Oyona worked part-time. Despite being a student herself, Yona had grown tired and jaded from the constant mistreatment she received from those around her. In particular, men seemed to be the worst offenders, and she had come to view most people with a cynical eye. One day, while taking out the trash, Yona stumbled upon a couple making out. Little did she know, the man in question was actually a goblin named Bonsuk, who sought to steal emotions from the woman he kissed in order to better understand them. After the deed was done, the woman was left with no memory of what had transpired. Meanwhile, Bonsuk was perplexed as to why his heart felt so empty despite all the emotions he had collected. The Goblin Queen informed him that his loneliness was the cause and that the only way for him to truly become human was to kiss 10 women. Though Bonsuk possessed the power of charm, human emotions were complex and difficult to understand, so the task would not be an easy one. Bonsuk's desire to become human stemmed from his fear of living alone, as the Goblin Queen had done for over 1,000 years. However, she did not take his words seriously and used her magic to show him who his next target should be, a college friend of Yona's named Solhei. Solhei had recently fallen in love and shared with Yona her excitement over meeting a handsome stranger who had asked for her number. Little did she know that the man in question was none other than Bonsuk, who used his powers to enchant her with a green aura. Yona, wary of past betrayal, warned her friend to be careful around strangers. She herself had been hurt by a man before and could not bring herself to trust any man again. When Yona walked home from work one evening, she unexpectedly stumbled upon her best friend Solhei kissing a man. The sight immediately brought back painful memories of her ex-boyfriend, who had cheated on her repeatedly. She approached Solhei and recognized the man as the same one she had seen in front of the restaurant, kissing another woman. Filled with emotion, Yona confronted the man, Bonsuk, accusing him of being a heartless playboy who only toyed with women's feelings. Without hesitation, she punched him in the face, warning him about the hurt he caused to women like herself and many others who desired serious relationships. Solhei and Yona left Bonsuk speechless, but he couldn't shake the strange feeling that he wanted to comfort Yona and wipe away her tears. On their way home, Yona told Solhei about Bonsuk, who had kissed 2 women right in front of her. However, Solhei had no recollection of what had happened to her just moments before. Yona found it strange that her best friend could so easily forget such a significant event. The next day, Yona returned to the restaurant where she encountered Bonsuk once again. Curiosity got the better of her, and she asked him about Solhei, who had forgotten the previous night's events. At first, Bonsuk was reluctant to answer, not wanting humans to interfere in his affairs. But after Yona's persistence, he revealed his true identity as a goblin, who must kiss 10 women to become human. He explained that after the kiss, the women would forget the encounter entirely. Yona couldn't believe what she was hearing and dismissed Bonsuk's words as the ravings of a madman. The Goblin Queen and Bonsuk embark on their mission to kiss the 3rd woman, but not without the Queen's warning about the potential danger of exorcists detecting the spread of goblin energy. Bonsuk approaches the woman and asks about the man in her photo, revealing that he's on a mission to kiss 10 women to become human. The woman confides that the man in the photo was her deceased fiancé, who died in a tragic accident just a week before their wedding. As Bonsuk departs, the woman's boyfriend unexpectedly arrives, but as he leans in for a kiss, Bonsuk reveals himself as the goblin in disguise. The emotions of the moment overwhelm Bonsuk and he feels a sharp pain in his chest, shedding tears as he continues on his mission. Meanwhile, Yona coincidentally runs into her cheating ex-boyfriend, who doesn't even acknowledge her presence. Feeling dejected and unimportant, Yona crosses paths with Bonsuk, who is also in a state of sadness. The two connect over their shared feelings and Bonsuk asks Yona what she does when she's sad. She shares that she typically expresses her emotions until she feels calm again. A short time later, they are confronted by an exorcist who is able to detect the presence of goblins by their smell. The exorcist attacks Bonsuk, attempting to strangle him. Yona jumps in to prevent the attack, but it seems hopeless until Bonsuk uses his magical powers to escape with Yona. Unfortunately, Yona injures her hand in the process. Bonsuk takes care of her wound, and she can hardly believe what she just saw. Yona has always thought that goblins were only a myth, like in fairy tales. Bonsuk tells her that there are still 7 more kisses to be completed in order to become human. Bonsuk then visits the Goblin Queen to tell her about the encounter with the Exorcist. He wants to know why the Exorcist was after him. The Goblin Queen reveals that goblins used to be human. When their hearts are deeply wounded, they turn into vengeful creatures, feared by humans. Goblins only want to be human again, but humans hate having them around. For generations, exorcists have been getting rid of goblins to prevent them from becoming human again. Bonsuk realizes that the journey to becoming human is not going to be easy, as there are those who want to stop him from achieving his goal. Bonsuk, a curious and kind-hearted goblin, wonders if the Goblin Queen, who has lived for centuries, also wishes to become human like he does. However, the queen remains silent and only recalls her past when confronted by an exorcist who has failed to kill her multiple times. Meanwhile, the Goblin Queen sends Bonsuk a message about the 4th female target, and Bonsuk successfully extracts anger as the target's emotion. Later, he comes across Yona crying alone on the stairs and asks her what's wrong. She tells him about her ex who manipulated her feelings, and Bon-suk becomes enraged. He urges Yona to confront the two men and holds them accountable for their actions. However, the men refuse to take responsibility and instead blame Yona for being cheap. Secretly, Solhei had recorded the men's conversation and exposes it in front of the class, revealing the truth to everyone. Yona slaps her ex in anger and warns him not to bother her again. Bon-suk realizes that humans need to vent their anger toward those who deserve it, but their troubles aren't over yet, as another exorcist appears and a fight ensues. As the exorcist is about to attack Bon-suk, Yona protects him with her body. The exorcist demands that Yona leave, as it's his duty to kill goblins. However, Yona defends Bon-suk, insisting that he's not evil and often helps humans. She tightens her arms around Bon-suk, forcing the exorcist to leave them be. Bon-suk is surprised by Yona's behavior and is hopeful that she will help protect him. They agree to live together in an apartment, with Bon-suk taking on the responsibility of paying rent and housework, while Yona will focus on her studies. However, she must also help Bon-suk become human. With 4 women already kissed, there are still 6 more to go. Every kiss only brings negative emotions to Bon-suk, so Yona joins him on his mission to complete it and avoid being killed by an exorcist. She stays close to him every time he goes on a mission, making it difficult for the exorcist to interfere. As they spend more time together, Yona starts to let go of her negative thoughts and feelings toward others. Bon-suk reveals his dream of becoming human and liking Yona, to which she responds with a smile, finding the idea fun. However, when she witnesses Bon-suk kissing the 7th woman, Yona feels a twinge of sadness and jealousy. She starts to realize that her relationship with Bon-suk may not be just a friendship. Despite her growing feelings for him, she feels hesitant and unsure of how to navigate these new emotions. Aside from being handsome and sexy, Bon-suk is also kind and attentive to Yona. As they continue to work together to complete his mission and help him become human, Yona finds herself drawn to him more and more. One night, as Bon-suk went to complete his mission, Yona watched him from a distance, feeling a mixture of concern and jealousy. She knew Bon-suk had to kiss the woman who was his 8th target, but the sight of it made her uneasy. When Bon-suk returned to their apartment, he was agitated by an unexplained fear he had experienced in the bathroom. Yona comforted him by letting him rest his head on her lap, and at that moment, she couldn't help but feel a rush of emotions she couldn't explain. When Bon-suk woke up, he thanked Yona for being there for him and making him feel safe. But when Yona asked if he felt anything when they were together, he looked puzzled and said he didn't understand. This response disappointed her deeply, leaving her questioning the nature of their relationship. If Bon-suk didn't feel anything for her, there was no point in their arrangement. Unable to suppress her feelings, Yona abruptly left the apartment, leaving Bon-suk alone and confused. The 9th woman's target has already been set and Bon-suk has a mission to complete before 2 a.m., and he calls Yona to accompany him. However, Yona is still angry and ignores his call. Bon-suk sends a message that he will be at the park to complete his mission. After kissing the woman, Bon-suk feels happy and remembers the good times he had with Yona. Suddenly, an exorcist stabs him with a knife in the tunnel, catching him off guard. Yona rushes to the park after reading Bon-suk's message, but she couldn't reach him over the phone. Fortunately, she manages to stop the exorcist from killing Bon-suk and saves his life. Yona is heartbroken to see Bon-suk unconscious and reveals her true feelings for him. She is willing to do anything to save his life. The Goblin Queen arrives and uses her magic power to heal Bon-suk's wounds, and luckily, he is not seriously injured. The Goblin Queen, who heard Yona's feelings, entrusts her to take care of Bon-suk from now on. In the meantime, Yona stays up all night taking care of Bon-suk. She realizes that she can't hide her feelings for him any longer. As she touches his cheek, Bon-suk wakes up and makes a simple request for Yona to never leave him or make him sad again. In return, Bon-suk promises to continue loving and liking Yona forever. Yona is touched by his words and feels her heart flutter with happiness as she realizes that Bon-suk has fallen in love with her. The next day, Bon-suk receives an explanation about his final target, and it turns out to be Yona herself. Confused and unsure, he seeks out the Goblin Queen for answers. The Goblin Queen reveals that the final emotion he needs to experience is love and that the final kiss should be with someone who truly loves him in return. She warns him that if he kisses Yona, she will lose all memory of him forever. The Queen shares the story of many goblins who have failed to complete their final mission because they couldn't bear to lose their memories of the ones they loved. As the conversation continues, the Goblin Queen reveals that her own past is intertwined with that of the Exorcists, who are the last humans to be kissed by her. She had feelings for a man once but ultimately chose not to kiss him in order to keep her memories of him. She has lived for 1,000 years with those memories and advises Bon-suk to consider his options carefully. At the promised place, Yona approaches Bon-suk, and she can sense that he is deep in thought. Bon-suk finally speaks up, revealing that he has made the difficult decision to return to his native goblin world and give up on his dream of becoming human. Yona is taken aback by his sudden announcement and asks if he will ever come back, but Bon-suk says that he won't. Overwhelmed with sadness, Yona cannot contain her emotions and breaks down in tears, despite having just expressed her feelings to Bon-suk the night before. It is then revealed that Yona had seen a message on Bon-suk's phone explaining that the reason he had to give up on their feelings is that she was the last woman he needed to kiss in order to attain the emotion of love. If he were to kiss her, all of her memories of him would be erased, and if he chose to become human, he would lose all memories of Yona as well. Bon-suk had been longing to become human because he did not want to be alone anymore. Having lived alone for 160 years, he had finally found someone he loved, a human being. He is torn between his desire to be with Yona and his fear of losing all memories of her. Despite feeling sad and angry about their situation, Bon-suk knows that the memories they shared are incredibly valuable and he does not want to forget them. After parting ways, Bon-suk removes all of the writing on the board and reflects on his memories with Yona, cherishing them as he returns to his goblin world. After their emotional farewell, Bon-suk departs from Yona, leaving her heartbroken and unsure of what to do next. She tries to move on but can't shake the feeling that she won't find someone as good as Bon-suk, especially after being hurt by her previous partner. Meanwhile, Bon-suk reaches out to the Goblin Queen and tells her of his decision to return to his native world. He asks her how she feels about leaving her loved ones behind, and the Goblin Queen admits that she regrets it at times, but believes that fate might bring them back together in the future. On the other hand, the exorcist who was previously involved with Yona returns and takes her somewhere. He's angry at what happened between Yona and Bon-suk and decides that if Bon-suk truly loves Yona, then he'll come to her aid if she's in danger. Though he's not allowed to kill humans, he doesn't hesitate to hurt them. When the exorcist was about to harm Yona, Bon-suk suddenly appeared and demanded her release. The enraged exorcist turned on Bon-suk, but his deep love for Yona awakened a hidden power within him, allowing him to defeat the exorcist. Despite knowing they will forget each other, Bon-suk feels a premonition about Yona and decides to stay. Yona agrees to let fate decide their future and they share a passionate kiss before parting ways. A year later, Yona begins attending classes and coincidentally meets Bon-suk, who has become human and is also enrolled in her class. Unaware of each other's identities, they are paired up by their lecturers for a group project with Bon-suk using the name Kim Kon-woo. Meanwhile, the Goblin Queen uses her magic to manipulate fate and pairs Yona with Kon-woo. Yona unknowingly helps Kon-woo after a close call with a bike, and they both feel an unexplainable connection. When Kon-woo thanks her, Yona has a sense of déjà vu but he dismisses it, suggesting they may have met in a previous life. As they get to know each other, their feelings of love from their past life resurface. Kon-woo turns out to be Bon-suk, who changed his name after he became a human. As fate would have it, he found himself paired with Yona in a task group. He mustered up the courage to send her a message, suggesting they meet in front of the library. Yona, intrigued by the message, eagerly went to meet Kon-woo. On her way, she noticed a bike speeding toward him, and without hesitation, she rushed to his rescue. Her heart raced as she realized that the man she was about to meet was the same person she had saved from the bike accident. When Kon-woo saw Yona approaching him, he couldn't help but feel a sense of familiarity. He had a hunch that they had met before, and it seemed that Yona felt the same way. She confessed that she had a premonition about going on a date with him, and they struck up a conversation, getting acquainted after a long time of not seeing each other. Grateful for Yona's timely intervention, Kon-woo thanked her for saving him. Yona couldn't shake off the feeling that they had crossed paths before, but Kon-woo had a different perspective. He shared that he believed they might have known each other in a previous life, as the first touch and smile between them felt so familiar and comforting. This encounter marked the beginning of a new chapter in both of their lives. Despite their changed identities and the passage of time, their feelings for each other remained unchanged. Love still lingered in their hearts. Meanwhile, in another part of the story, it seemed that fate was also at play. The Goblin Queen and the Exorcist found themselves facing each other meaningfully. The Queen, who had wasted her feelings on the Exorcist for 1,000 years before, seemed determined not to let history repeat itself. She gazed at him with unwavering resolve, indicating that this time she would not squander her emotions on the only man she had ever loved for a millennium. The moral of the story is to always check your surroundings, even when sending text messages. You never know when you might accidentally run into someone you're trying to set up a meeting with. And remember that love can be found in the most unexpected places, even in front of a library after narrowly avoiding a bike collision. So, keep an eye out for those serendipitous moments and be open to new chapters in your life, even if they come with a touch of silliness.